Welcome to your sophomore year at the Tragedy Academy, where you are the teacher and we are the students. Together, we will learn from past tragedy to lay the foundation for a better humanity. The only supplies you'll need: an open mind and a sense of humor. So, tilt that chair back, talk out of turn, and never raise your hand. Because this is the Tragedy Academy, and class is in session. And I'm Purist Scott. Welcome to the Tragedy Academy, a show created to bridge societal divides in a judgment-free zone using candor and humor. My name is Jay, and today I'm joined by Andrew Nethery, film and commercial director. How you doing, Andrew?
I'm good. Yeah. How about yourself?
Doing real well. Been excited about this one. Mike referred me to you. Mike Barker is such a cool guy when he was on, and anybody that he refers, I definitely want to get a conversation with. So doing good today.
Nice. Yeah. This is weird for me because, I'm usually the one doing the interviews. So now I'm like, I don't even know how to approach it. I'm going to like step on your toes, or I'm going to be quiet and listen. I don't even know what world this is right now. So let's see how I do.
You know what? I think that it's quite all right with me because I don't believe in interviewing people because it's just so awkward to me. I can't have a list of questions. I can't, like, scripts are really hard for me because I have to work off of people in situations, and that's how we work in day-to-day life. So in this type of situation, I just want to know about, your new documentary, Bury Us, Punk Rock Uprising. Right. And I want to know about you and tell people, what your passion is, how you came up with this. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it. Tell me what you want to hear about. You want the lowdown? You got a question for me? What's going on?
Well, why don't you tell us what Bury Us, a Punk Rock Uprising is?
Yeah, so this film is about the Basque punk rock scene. I kind of approached it as like a concert film, but it's like really a lot deeper. So the kind of like one-liner that I've been telling people is that it's a sonic journey through Basque punk and like the turbulent past and the history that's defined that genre of music. And then chronicling the rise of this like underground gaztetxe movement, which is basically all these like punk, well, they're a lot bigger than punk venues, but basically they're illegally occupied buildings that kind of support their culture, which has been historically repressed.
Almost like a 50s like Nazi swing places, things like that, underground, or the black culture having the underground bars and things like that where they could play music and stuff like that. That's super cool.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, because I know a lot of people won't know where Basque is, can we describe that real quick just so they can get a context?
Sure. So there's a few ways to describe it. There's the way that the Basque people prefer, and then there's like the hard truth of the reality of like the Spanish state. So most of Basque country is in Spain, part of it's in France, and basically what you have is you have a nation without a state. So the Basque country is thousands of years old, culturally, language-wise. They've been there for a very long time, but they don't have a country. So their land is in the northeast of Spain, basically. So if you've heard of a city called San Sebastian or Bilbao or Pamplona, most people know Pamplona from the running of the bulls. That's the Basque country. And then
So that's actually where the running of bulls is?
Yeah, correct. There's a lot more nuance to this, but there's like different parts of the Basque country, but in the greater, biggest sense that would be considered part of the Basque country, Navarra, technically. But yeah.
So a huge societal and cultural divide there is what I'm hearing, a huge divide, and probably a lot of anguish within that, just like any other area that when we separate people creates some very disharmonious situations.
Yeah, well, there's like definitely a long history of repression under the Franco dictatorship, which people have not really gotten over. This guy was in power until the mid 70s. And, you still see the lasting effects of what a fascist dictator will do. And, people, most people, when I tell them about this film, it's like, oh man, I didn't realize Spain was this and that. And it's like, oh, well, in a lot of sense, like Spain is great. Like, I love the place. But the fact of the matter is, like, Hitler, Mussolini, they were knocked out of power in World War II, but Franco stayed until he died. And his dictatorship was never ended. They slowly transitioned to democracy after his death, which was decreed by the king. They still have a monarchy. Yes, they are a democracy, depending on who you ask. But yeah, so it's kind of like this weird thing. I wouldn't say that there's like
That's always a smoke and mirrors thing, because we understand that that's a money issue when you're in that type of situation, whether
yeah,
or not there's a monarchy or that type of situation. I can see how because I mean France is in just as much of a situation because they're so divided with so many different cultures there. I mean, from terrorism to the misunderstandings between all those different divides. I can't imagine. So you're tacking that onto Basque, onto Spain, and then I mean you could even go to Madagascar if you want.
yeah. I mean, I do want to say, like, I don't feel that there's like a divide in a way that's sort of, these people are very open. They're very, they're modern humans, right? Like, I feel that,
Of course.
they kind of get a lot of shit about, like, oh, you're Basque, like, why do you want to be different? Why do you want to this? And it's like, no, 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 like, I don't want to separate. I just want to be known for who I am. And so I think it's important to talk about the fact that, like, especially to me, like the younger generations, especially like millennials, et cetera, we're all citizens of the world. Like, we grew up on the internet. There are people, you talk to, whether you know it or not, that are like from around the world just by the way of like typing on your computer. And so they're very much in that world too. However, it's like, hey, we have this language, like their language was outlawed until the mid 70s. And so the people in my film, they were the first generation to be able to legally learn their language. And so they're very proud of the
Wow.
fact that that language hasn't died. And that's quite an achievement for them. I digress a little bit here, but that's
No,
sort of the
no. I
context.
actually I love this. I love this because you're pointing out something that's very it's it's a micro and macro issue, and it's a situation where I when you look at people you envy, because I'm going to say that the people in Basque may not realize it at certain points, but I feel like when someone is firmly authentic and they're expressing themselves with zero repression, that other people don't necessarily hate them. They hate themselves for not taking that step of authenticity to be them. So they represent everything that they won't do within themselves. And they're enclosed in two giant systems. These are large countries, and they've got so many people that have bought into it. And to look at them is to admit that they're in a situation that could let them be authentic if they were the other way.
Right.
It's a boiler room.
Yeah, it's just yeah, I don't know. I lost my train of thought, honestly, but it's just there's so much beauty in the kind of history. And so I really got into this sort of world. I was touring with a American band through what I knew as Spain, and when we got there, it was like, hey, these aren't Spanish, these are Basque people. Don't call them Spanish. Like, it's very offensive to them. And we were touring through these gasteches, which translates to youth house. And these are squats, again, illegally occupied. They take over these abandoned buildings and turn them into culture centers. Part of it's political, a lot of it's cultural, a lot of it is like self-help. So they'll like have classes, whether it's like learn how to record, learn how to sew, learn how to like do things where you can turn around and like add value to your life with these skills. And it's like a punk rock venue. So it's like this crazy world of like revolutionary, it's like a revolutionary culture center, all tied to their sort of independence movement. Not all of them are tied to the independence movement, but overall it's like very pro Basque culture, in a place where they've been sort of, you look at like homogenization in our country, right? Like, obviously, the most horrible example is like what happened to the Native Americans. And so, like, this is their response to that homogenization. It's like, yes, I understand, like, there's a global world. However, like, we're going to keep our language and traditions. And so that's how I was introduced, right? I went to all these little guest sketches. And I was like, wow, this is insane. Like, the richness of the scene and the culture and the history, and like learning more about the history. I was just like, wow, like, made some really good friends there. A friend like Peo Salaveria, he's the producer of my film. He's Basque. He's from a little town. He's very, he grew up in this. And so, we became friends. He's a filmmaker. He came out to LA. We lived together in LA for a while. And, he just came out to try to learn the American way of filmmaking. And just like, that's how this film came together. It was just like, when you're a documentary filmmaker, you can't just make up a story. A story has to find you. And it just became like this is a documentary. How has this not been made? Like I always used to tell them, like, how has this not been made? Granted, this story's been told in the Basque context and in the Spanish context, and actually censored in the Spanish context. And so, that was the kind of start of it. And then one of Peyo's friends' band, a friend of Peyo's, they're in a band. They came out to LA, met this band Nina Coyote at the Chico Tornado. Koldo and Usua, they're the main characters of the film. I pretty much loved their music. And I was like, okay, here's the stars of the film. They're magnetic on camera. And there we go. Like then, 5 years later, here we are. We finished it. So yeah, long journey.
What an amazing story. And I hear that when you're walking through that, a lot of things stick out to me, and that's that you put yourself in the shoes of the people that were actually in the situation. You walked through their culture, you went through these different areas. And another thing was that you said that the story comes to you. And I firmly believe in that. I think that when you're acting in a manner that is authentic to yourself, and if you're pursuing something creatively, it should come to you. It shouldn't be something that you're seeking out. I think that it should show up on your doorstep. One thing I'd like to point, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, like, a lot of people never get that opportunity. I was just lucky enough, like this thing fell into my lap,
It's a great point. A lot of people don't get that opportunity. And that's with every single experience for any other person anywhere else in the world. I think that as creators, there's an onus on us to put forth a product that conveys a message, even if it's laughter or whatever it is, but you have to take that mindful moment, because that's what humans are doing. They can't catch up with their own brain. They don't know what to do. So they sit on a couch or they look at a video for a certain amount of time to calm their mind, but they're going to take in an experience. And if you're going to be a filmmaker or director, I love that you've chose a method to utilize that mindful moment to teach people what cultural oppression looks like. And then also, I mean, let's face it, punk gets a really shitty rap for wanting to be the most authentic group out there, for wanting to just be themselves and nothing more. They don't fucking hurt anybody.
Definitely. Yeah. And, I grew up in Southern California. And so like punk was everywhere. I mean, it's everywhere anyway, but, just a lot of like the South Bay bands like Pennywise and like all this scene. I kind of like became friends with some
Pennywise,
of those guys.
I haven't heard that in forever.
Yeah, like they're fucking classic. But yeah, it's just like this crazy thing of like, punk is so ubiquitous, but then when you look at like what the Basques have done, they've like, I say it in our trailer. It's like, for punk around the world is about, revolution, but for the Basques, it's like literally a fight and a struggle for their culture. So it's like an added layer and an added depth.
I love it. So in this documentary, is there particular moments that really stick out to you?
Oh man, it's like a blur. I've watched this thing like 100, now probably like 1,000 times.
I'm asking you a loaded question, knowing that I've edited a lot of audio and things like that, and it just becomes like this big circle. It becomes its own living, breathing entity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot that stick out, and another reason why I made this film was, I started this film in the Obama years, and you watched the sort of Tea Party at that time, and the birther movement, which the man eventually became president, and you see this polarization in our culture beginning to be very pronounced. And I created this film as like a cautionary tale for America, frankly, because it's really hard to talk in honest ways about what is wrong with our country. Like you can't do it. Like everyone's already has their mind made up. there's too
Agreed.
much to like I feel like maybe one-on-one people can talk, but like by and large it's impossible to bridge the divide that we have in our culture. And this was a long time ago that I started this. So anyway, what sticks out?
No, no,
Yeah, to
let's keep
that,
going on this way.
no, I'm getting to it. Don't worry, I'm
Okay.
getting to it. So what sticks out? You know, I started this film as a cautionary tale for Americans because you saw it in Spain very pronounced. Like there is a climate of censorship there that every time I would do an interview, like it was very like, and you know, my producer as well, he's Basque, and he was very conscious of this. What you can say, what you can't say, you know, especially as it relates to like wanting independence. And like beyond that, I don't want to get into like the too details there. It gets very nuanced and it's a lot of backstory, but basically it's so similar to our country. And I feel like when you kind of take an American out of our country and you put it in this world where you're like, oh damn, like that's censorship. Oh damn, like that's heavy. Like wow, like that's repression. And then you're sort of like, yeah, and like let's now like think about what that means in America, right? And so to me, like the part that sticks out to me is like the theme that I built into the film, which was, you know, there's a climate of self censorship in Spain. People like artists are arrested, charged,
It's like the Dark
censored.
Ages.
Yeah, but you know, it happens here, it happens everywhere. Like it's
Yeah,
like really
absolutely.
obvious to like, you know, and I don't want to like hate on Spain. Like I don't feel that I have like a right, frankly, to shake my fucking whatever at Spain, the country. But there are obviously isolated, like actually there are a lot of incidents where it's just like, wow, like you guys are literally trying to send this rapper to jail. You're literally sending a comedian, like a late night talk show host, to a judge for words that he's saying, jokes that he's saying. You're finding a Twitter user to be inappropriate and sending her to jail or to court. She didn't go
Wow.
to
So no
jail.
freedom of speech whatsoever.
Um,
Well, I mean, there is, but I mean, once you pick one word, there's none.
they don't have what we have. We have, you know, a Bill of Rights, and they don't. And for better or worse, right? Like there's the bad side of freedom of speech, but there's, to me, you need it. Like you need to have it no matter what, because like once you start litigating, like, oh, what's right and what's wrong, like it's never gonna end well. Yeah, like this
Yeah,
guy.
that's an endless cycle.
Yeah, and like we could talk about it in the Basque context, but the things I'm telling you about right now, these I mean Twitter, right? These happened in the last 5 years. You know, there was a rapper who basically in his lyrics rapped about killing the king, and now he had to leave the country, and he lives, you know, in Holland or something. He's not planning on going back because he will go to jail. There are a few things that are similar to that, which, you know, you said you kill a king. Like, you know, people in America say stuff like that all the time, and
Yeah,
nothing
just
happens to them.
go to our Twitter feed. That's
Yeah,
Twitter is nothing but that.
right,
Like,
right.
for all of this to take place, I feel like you're giving them a voice, the voice that they don't have, as well as a cautionary tale. Would you agree with that?
Yeah. I'm giving them a voice in an international context. I think internationally, a lot of people don't really know anything. I think in America, people don't really know a lot about the Basque Country.
I don't know a lot about any country.
Yeah, well, that's pretty true. We're pretty centered on ourselves, you know. I mean, I'm giving them a voice. I don't think that like I'm not going to say that I'm doing a lot for them because they've done a lot for themselves, you know, like I really don't think I deserve a lot of credit in that sense. You know, the people that I interviewed, they're the ones that stood up and said what they said, and I've, you know, this scene that I captured is like 40 years old, right? Like punk was like started in the 80s and it's matured and it's kind of, you know, they did this, I didn't do this. You know, yeah, I captured it, I was lucky I found it, I'm bringing it to a new place, and I think I am pointing out things that like they are a little afraid to say, like this is censorship, like, you know, this is an American's understanding of a Spanish Basque problem, I guess. I don't know if you know much about the Catalan independence movement, which is another culture within Spain that has a very similar story to the Basques. Different people, different country. Barcelona is what everyone knows is Catalan. They have their own language. They have their own history of repression. And so
I've always wondered how, you have things like, Portugal, and you got a whole different language that pops out of there that, it's obviously it's a Romance or a Latin language, but that is a vast difference in such a small span of space, all within one country. So I think maybe I didn't realize how sectioned the country actually is culturally. But I think that the misconception is that when a language pops up on a country, that's what everybody in that country is. And this is Europe. It's not like everybody didn't walk there. Everybody came from one spot and they scattered around. So you're going to get so many different cross cultures, especially when you're 100 feet from a street where there's another freaking country. Just, it's like zip code to zip code. So there's got to be, it's been a melting pot long before the U.S. was a melting pot. And you can see that. And I like that now we're in a day and age where I don't think you give yourself enough credit, because as a documentarian, like I was saying earlier, there's an onus on creators to put things in front of people with that amount of time that they're spending there. And I think you're making a very good use of that. And I would argue that everybody there, if you ask them, they would be very appreciative of what you've done. They'd have a much higher praise for you. Hey, academics. Have you endured life's tragedies, trials, and tribulations? Did you adapt and overcome? Do you have advice for others to pay forward and want to be a guest? Then email us a brief 2 to 3 minute video to show@thetragedyacademy.com and tell us how our academics can learn and grow from these experiences. Thanks again for your support. And now, back to class.
We premiered the film this past Saturday. Yeah,
okay.
I was we premiered it in Barcelona, which is not in the Basque country, but again, it's in Catalonia, which has a similar struggle and a much more imminent struggle. They voted they tried to secede from Spain in 2017, and the vote was like, you can't even
didn't know that
to do that, right? So think about this, right? You can't even vote to say, I want to be free, right? And like, I don't know, think about that in California, for example. There's like this weird California, from California. So there's like some people, we want California to be its own country, right? So like, let's say you get enough people to put like, we want to be free of America on a ballot. That is illegal to do. That is literally illegal. It's against the Constitution of Spain to even bring that to a vote, even if it's just for a consensus. So they tried, and they were completely like squashed. And I think about 12 or so of the leaders of Catalonia independence are all in jail now. And so anyway, we premiered it in Barcelona because it just felt right. And yeah, everyone loved it. It was at a Basque Film Festival in Barcelona. So yeah, they liked it. So
yeah, you received an award, didn't you? You received an award for the film.
Yeah, that was a separate thing. So in late 2020, the Los Angeles Documentary Film Festival awarded me with the best director of the festival. Yeah, huge. And it's amazing because that festival has this background in this like amazing man whose name is Parajnov, and he was like sort of a dissident in I don't want to like tell you too many details because it's like a kind of complex history, but he was also like very much censored for his artwork, and he had to leave. It was part of Russia at the time, I believe. And so anyway, like that was a really amazing thing to like be honored by that organization and that film festival.
People that understand the struggle. When you come from the struggle and you recognize somebody that documented somebody else's struggle, that means that it resonated with them. So I can appreciate that. I can't wait to get my eyes on it. I want to see the entire thing. It immediately took me in from the first trailer because I could see that you capture what those people are feeling. It seems like it's from their eyes, which is super cool. I can't go any further though without asking a question. And this is way off topic, but I just cannot forget it once I've seen it. What's it like to stick a 20-foot Slim Jim on a fucking subway car?
It was great. Yeah. Yeah. To give a little context, I've done some work for the Slim Jim brand. And if you don't follow them on Instagram, you have no sense of humor whatsoever. That's, yeah, they're, that I can't take credit for that concept. Like the people behind that are geniuses, friends of mine and colleagues of mine. So yeah, they've like literally captured meme culture in a brand. There's no brand that does it better than Slim Jim. And so a colleague of mine, his name's John Lynn, and I came up with this concept to it was kind of inspired by the Instagram account Subway Creatures. I don't know if you're familiar, but
No, I'm not, but I will be.
yeah, yeah. So I've lived in New York for about 3 years now, and there's one thing you learn living here is like the subway is a very interesting place. And so someone created an Instagram account, which is like the creatures of the subway creatures, and it's just weird stuff. And so our whole thing was like, all right, how do we get on there? Like, let's do something weird and bizarre. And so we created a 20-foot long Slim Jim and just like without any reason, just completely, just like randomly wandered around New York and like threw that thing in Times Square subway and like it didn't fit sometimes. And like, then, New Yorkers get a bad rap, by the way. Like everyone was helping out, like, oh, let's get that. Like clearly it was a marketing stunt and people are helping like to get it into the subway. Like,
because it's a 20-foot Slim Jim. How can you not help it? And by the way, whoever put this thing together, because I was looking at it, I was like, is this a fucking pool noodle in plastic or what is this? And I looked and honestly, I couldn't tell because the plastic on the end of it looked like it had that meat stick end in it. So whoever put that thing together made it look like a legit Slim Jim.
Yeah, it was a real Slim Jim.
It was?
We ate it. No. I wish.
was like, Jesus.
No, it was made by a professional fabricating company. I wish I could tell you the name because they nailed it. They completely nailed it. It was like real. Yeah. That was a fun day. That was a weird day.
I was laughing hysterically. That's great though, because you know what, you're setting an example for people here, because you documented the people in Basque and their situation, which is amazing. And I think that you also set an example here, because what I see is all authenticity. I see a lot of creations where you didn't do things that were the cultural norm or what people would normally want people to say or act like or whatever. And that can be just being as silly as possible. And I think that's an example.
I mean, if I could do anything, it would just be stupid and talk shit and be silly. Like that's who I am. And like this two-sided thing of like, I feel like weird, funny people also have this like brutal honesty. So maybe there's something to that. I don't know. But yeah, like,
yeah, that is true.
Guy. Yeah. I'm just a weird guy making weird stuff.
I love that though. Weird stuff is what makes the world go round. If you don't have weird things, then everything just becomes black and white. It's not fun anymore.
It's really hard to sell through weird stuff. Just so you know, really hard. Like you have to see it to understand it usually.
I totally get it. I've explained the concept of this so many different times because I'm an idiot. Like there are things within the last 70 or so episodes where I've said some things I never thought I would, being recorded. But I'll tell you one thing, recorded, when you listen to yourself recorded for long periods of time, it's like therapy because you get to hear that inner child scream. You get to hear like, I'm trying to be noticed or other, weird stutters and things like that. And you start to realize that shit, this is actually a lot different than I thought it was. And you get to see it grow. You get to see that it's its own entity. You get to try out things. It allowed me the chance to actually be myself for once. I'm appreciative of it because I think when you create, you don't just create things. I think you discover yourself in the process.
Yeah, definitely. Man, it's been a long road for me. I feel like I did a lot of really weird stuff early on. Like I started making stuff with my friends in high school and just like weird, just like, honestly, I was like cutting like VHS, like weird. Like I never worked with film. I wasn't that old.
I love it.
Yeah, like VHS, just like doing just the weirdest stuff. And like, it was weird when I went to apply for film school. I was like, this shit's way too weird. They're not going to like, and then, so anyway, I got like a little more serious and I like learned how to do it the professional way. And like, that Slim Jim stuff is like full circle. And, you know, again, like I'm just building off of what they've done. Like that brand is amazing, you know, and like I'm just lucky to have worked with them, honestly. The other one that we did,
It's
the other
always
one
full
we did is
circle.
like, you know, Slim Jim did this collaboration with Tipsy Elves, which is like they make like weird onesies and stuff and like costumes. And so they made like a Slim Jim sock where you can like stash a Slim Jim in the sock, and like you know, Macho Man. Yeah,
It's
Macho
fucking
Man Randy
amazing.
Savage, like the jacket, and there's like a Slim Jim holder here, and so like,
It stays warm too
that's what
against the
you
side
want.
of your arm
Yeah, and
and your leg. That's
no, you
amazing. You
want
don't
it
want a cold Slim Jim.
98.7
That's weird.
degrees, and if not that, you want it 69 degrees. By the way, you know. Yeah,
I'm with that too.
that's the joke.
That's
We actually
amazing.
did the first branded or the first paid advertisement for Slim Jim on Instagram, and it was 269 jokes. Like that's what those guys are up to.
I love that kind of humor because it's basically just making fun
Yeah.
of everybody's hang up. Everybody's hang up. It's a fucking Slim Jim.
Yeah.
All right. And what you guys are thinking about. I love anything that mocks the overarching theme, but in a manner where it
Yeah.
doesn't affront people. And that is how you do it. You put a Slim Jim in a fucking sock.
Yeah, exactly. And so for that shoot, we just like literally spoofed a hype beast shoot. So we got like this great stylist to like dress them up over this bizarre like Macho Man stuff. And they made like a just like all these weird things. And so we put like legitimately styled outfits together and like hit all of the like major fashion spots, like in Dumbo, New York. And just like, you know, you see the Manhattan Bridge in the background, and like, it's a joke. Like we just got a bunch of like Instagram influencers to like pose like they were models, and it was just so dumb and so great.
Jesus, though. But how much
Oh,
did
we
you
laughed
laugh during
nonstop.
that? Like, how hard
Nonstop.
did you
Yeah,
laugh?
like we found like a red Vespa, and I was like, "Yo, like go pose over there, like kneel down, like." And like it was just great. I was like, someone put that there for us. Like no, like that was just in the streets. Like go, yeah, we laughed nonstop.
Everything started falling
Yeah.
into place, I'm sure. Amazing places to stick this Slim Jim and make a good laugh. I couldn't imagine. That sounds like a dream come true to me, honestly, because most of the time I'm acting like an idiot, you know, around the house or whatever, because I can't deal with it otherwise. I need to have that outlet, and I get serious for a show. That's about it. But most of the time I want to be jousting with Slim Jims.
Come out here and we'll get you jousting with Slim Jims. That's easy.
Can I name the show Jousting with Slim Jims? I'm just going to name this episode
Great.
Jousting with Slim Jims.
Perfect.
We've had some crazy titles over the years, because it's like I always try to grab something from the show and kind of throw it out there. But like one of the first ones, I used to have a co-host. He's a writer now, and we did stuff like Fat Boots and Treadmills, T-Rex Dodgeball, shit like that. Just completely off the wall stuff. I mean, the first thing that we created, we were talking about what it would sound like if a T-Rex threw a dodgeball at a kid during recess. So it's the first bonus on our show. Horrible audio. Like everything that I've learned has been over time in editing this stuff, but we just didn't go back and erase anything so you can see the progress. But it's literally like a la Adam Sandler with an intern we used to have, Jippy, where she's like, and now a T-Rex throwing a dodgeball at a kid during recess. And then you just hear some kid get hammered with a dodgeball, and then it's over. That's the whole thing. That's the first.
I don't even know what does that
just
even
to give
sound
you an
like?
idea.
I don't even know.
You know what? Hang on just a second. I might actually have that. Hold on.
Do, 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 do.
And now, a Tyrannosaurus throws a dodgeball at a kid during recess.
Oh my God. That's
You
beautiful.
can't unhear that.
That's beautiful. That's bold, you know, that you're really sticking up for those T-Rex, the little limbs of those T-Rexes. You know, that's like a bold statement.
Right? He had a gun. Did you hear that cannon?
Yeah, that
Did
was
you hear
a lot.
that cannon? So I do appreciate the nonsense that goes along with things like this. You gotta have a sense of humor.
Otherwise, you can't get through the serious stuff like you just, discussed. It takes both sides.
Yeah.
You got to have an outlet.
In this nonsense world, like you got to have a nonsense humor. Like, have you noticed how bizarre humor has gotten in the last 5 years? And I talk mostly about
It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Comedy is just like, what? Wow.
The darker, the better, if you ask me. I've always been a fan of comedy. I talk about this a lot. I'm a fan of comedy for especially stand-up in large venues and things like that, or even small venues, for two reasons. As long as it's a comedian that has like an understanding of reality, and most of them do, because they're struggling, they're tortured souls usually, so they see the holes in society, kind of like a Carlin, but you use that platform to call out really, really, really important things, but nobody in the room is on the carpet. Everybody in the room can laugh with everybody else. They can be like, yee. Afterwards, they can be like, all right, I better not do that anymore. But they weren't called out in front of everyone,
Absolutely.
but they were. So they got to learn a lesson without learning a lesson. I feel like that's one of the best ways to bridge divides.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I grew up on Chappelle. Like, the man is a genius.
He's one of my favorites. I just had the Chappelle Show on like 2 days ago because I found it on HBO Max, and I was like, son of a bitch, they have all the seasons. And it was playing in the background of the house for probably 2 days solid. My wife finally was like, you got to turn that shit off.
It's still so relevant. Probably
It's
more
beautiful.
relevant now. Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. It almost confirms it does confirm everything that was said then. And it just is repeating itself. He's such an enlightened dude. He really understands things. One of my favorite artists out there.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about him. He's amazing. Call me. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, he's great. He's great. Yeah, seriously. Right? And then he had to peace out for a few years just because the world was too fucked up.
People don't realize that. I think celebrities get a really, really, especially actors and musicians and stuff. The artists, they really get a bad rap and they really get abused. But in all reality, they're the ones that are studying humanity to replicate what it is that they feel or do. How the hell are they not going to know what people feel like or do? Nobody else does that. It's not like in school you become a method actor for a year where you have to be different people or something, which they probably should fucking do. You want to learn empathy, make somebody live like a homeless man for a day or, a week. That'll make you understand what it's like, but they always get a bad rap. And no, for all intents and purposes, they've seen both sides of the tracks usually, because most artists don't come from money, or anything like that. So they struggled to get their art, and then they have to struggle to defend their position next to it. And it's super sad.
Yeah, definitely. I don't even know where to begin with that. I've definitely have a couple friends that, are big name people, and, there's like the perception of who they are. And then there's like the reality. And, obviously there's truth to both, but,
I can see how both lives clash in a moment, and then you're also standing on display for everybody in the world to look at. And nobody wants to, because they're going to have the same human experience, only on a giant scale. So everybody would not want a camera on them their entire, 24/7 and everything they're doing. Like, you can't even like catch a hard booger when nobody's looking, because you're going to get caught picking it. That sucks, man.
Yeah.
I don't want to be famous. I have zero desire, because I couldn't imagine not being able to pick my butt, when I had an itch or something like that. That's not cool. That's too many
Can we get rid of these
eyes.
paparazzis already? What the fuck is that shit? Honestly, that whole class of people needs to go away.
We need to not give them an audience.
Good luck with that. Yeah.
That's the problem. Exactly. So long as the audience exists, so long as there's a consumer of that horrible misrepresentation of things or isolated moments in people's lives, could you imagine being summed up in a picture?
It's sad.
A picture immortalized in your worst moment in life. Shitty things people doing it never on camera. Boy, they would have a whole different tune. Also, how do you expect somebody to fucking operate with a shit ton of money when they've never had it? The hierarchy of needs are really different for somebody that grew up poor versus somebody that's had money. And also everybody that mooches on them on the way. That's got to be an island.
Oh, yeah. 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 I mean, I'll take it, though. I'll take all that. Like, if I got the money and the fame, like that's all right. I'll figure it out. You know, they're still living a good life. Like, let's be real here. But yeah, I mean,
No, I agree. I agree. However, with that, there's also, it does have there's a cross to bear. And I'm not saying there's not a cross to bear with everybody. I'm just pointing out in this particular instance that they're not given the same type of empathy that you would give to somebody else standing next to them.
No doubt.
Which is wrong. Everybody should get equal amounts of empathy in that situation.
For sure.
I've had so much fun talking with you. I don't want to monopolize all your time. And I want people to hear about the documentary again. Where can people find it?
Yeah, so right now, buryusfilm.com is probably the best place. Instagram, buryusfilm is probably the best place. We're working on premiering it in different areas, finding a distributor. You know, this is like a completely independently done film, like no help.
Wow.
Really proud of that, but honestly, it's a freaking pain. So at the moment, you know, we're just looking at different locations. We're going to premiere it in the Basque Country here in the next couple months. Yeah, the Los Angeles Documentary Film Festival. We weren't able to premiere it this last year because of COVID. So this year, in I think October, we're going to play it in LA. Hopefully, find a place in New York, and along the way, find a distributor to actually get it out in mass, like the way a film should be put out. But, you know, I really like the idea of like putting it in theaters.
It's going to be recognized. It's going to be recognized, and somebody's going to pick this up. It's art. That's a great representation of this situation. I can only see that happening. It's just a matter of when.
Fingers crossed. Yeah, it'll happen. So yeah, you know, we're looking to get it out to people as soon as we can, but we also want to be smart about it. So I wish everyone could watch it right now on Netflix or Amazon, but we're just kind of like got to cross some T's, dot some I's first. And, you know, putting a film in a theater is a special thing. And, you know, so I really want to get this thing in theaters, even if it's like for one show in one city or whatever, in different places. This film has a great soundtrack. You know, the music in this film is amazing, hands down, world class. And like to be able to get into a big theater and blast that.
Do you have any you want to share with us?
Some bands.
Is there anything that you can tack on to the show? You can send something over. I can, or let me know something. I can put it at the end of the episode.
Yeah, I'll send you a couple tracks, maybe a Spotify playlist or something. But you know, just to be able to play music loud in a theater, like it's just cool. Like I'm just a big music fan, so like I just want to blast some loud music and like show some people some stuff. So that's what we're trying to do.
Music, it's not given the respect that it should get, the arts in general, but music is one of the best ways to heal a divide. It's a different energy. It brings people together every single time. Saw it during the pandemic. I mean, as soon as that happened, I mean, we all bitch about how creators' lives changed and, you know, the different methods with which to get your art out there are all changed. But man, how many more artists do we see now with brilliant concepts and beautiful art than we ever did in the past? Because they were forced onto their knees and given a different way, and you adapt and overcome.
Yeah, for sure. I think it goes without saying that the thing that people miss the most is live music. Like everyone that I know, maybe I hang out with a lot of music people, but I think across the board, at least in America, it's just like that is the number one thing.
Just yearning for it. Yeah, my wife was really upset. They had a couple of concerts canceled recently. We've had tickets for a long time. It's disappointing, but here where I live, they're starting to open it back up. But you know, that's
wild,
that's Florida.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is you know, Florida Man on Florida Man. It's a podcast that we're friends with Wayne on that show. He pointed out something to me. You know, I've lived around the world, a lot of different countries, but then he pointed out something to me that I just did not. It never dawned on me about Florida, and that is that it is one of the most culturally diverse states in the shortest distances that you will find just about anywhere. You will go from culture to culture in seconds in Florida, and you don't even realize it. It's so diverse. It's kind of like what we were talking about. It's that melting pot. But here, I think that people's heads might get poached a little from the sun And then let's face it, we know what this is like. California's got the same epidemic or issues with it. It doesn't snow here. So if you're homeless or you're impoverished or you want to be somewhere that you don't freeze during the winter and you can be without electricity, guess where you're going to live?
Oh, yeah.
In a hot spot. It's just what happens, you know? And also there's a sunshine law here.
Spring break forever.
No, well, yeah, yes, it is. But the sunshine law is that anything that happens in the state can be released to the news
I heard that.
immediately, whereas in other states it can't be.
That's the excuse for Florida man, right? That's your guys' excuse. Yeah.
It is just, well, I mean, people don't get to see everything. Yeah. Everything's sensational. No, there are some fucking crazy things that happen here. Some really crazy things. But you know, it's that's kind of everywhere now.
Florida just gets the rap. It is. They're like the celebrity, the drunk uncle of America.
No, I mean it does. We are the drunk. We're the Uncle Randy of America. We are the hold my beer state. We have it's definitely Daisy Dukes and trucker hats and look ma and swimming across things. People get bit by gators here. That's natural selection. I have a problem. I actually don't have a problem with that. I mean, if you're going to swim with gators, it's kind of like, you know, you get what you deserve. At any rate, dude, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. I know this documentary is going to do great. And I know you're going to do great things. I genuinely appreciate the time that you give me today and everybody out there.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you having me on. You know, this is like pretty much a first for me to like have to talk. I'm always the interviewer. So yeah, thanks for bearing with me on that. That's really, really cool for you to have me on. And like, yeah, I love it. You know, thanks for doing what you do.
Dude, this is amazing. I appreciate it. It's a passion. So everybody out there, make sure you look up Bury Us, a Punk Rock Uprising. And thank you again, Andrew. And remember, everybody, be cool and keep learning. Hey, academics. Thanks again for attending another class at the Tragedy Academy. You can show us some love by subscribing, downloading, and rating us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. Or ask Amazon Alexa to play the Tragedy Academy podcast. You can find links to all major podcast platforms and past episodes at thetragedyacademy.com. You can find us on all the majors of social media, on Instagram at The Tragedy Academy 2019, on TikTok at The Tragedy Academy, and on Twitter at Tragedy_Academy, where we'll post our clips of upcoming shows, updated info, and thoughts. If you'd like to be a guest, send an email to show@thetragedyacademy.com. Keep an eye out on Instagram for Tragedy Academy giveaways. Thanks again for coming to class, and remember, be cool, keep learning.